In the last video, I showed you several examples of the graphic designs that are possible on the Envision skateboard blanks. So what I want to do in this video is do a couple of designs. I'm going to do a design on a 32-inch kicktail. On the 38-inch longboard, I'm going to use this design that my wife has already done, the burnt-in design with the old Envision logo on it. We're going to seal that as well as this one. And then I'm going to do another design on this 42-inch longboard, and it's the type of design that I've done several times in the past. So the first thing I do with this particular design, and it's the same way I did this Boards for Youth board, covered it with tape and then cut out the design. I'm going to do this one opposite. I'm going to cover it with tape, cut out the design, and I'm going to pull out the center of the tape, and that way we have a different design, kind of a blob on the top. But I start with taping the bottom from the center, and then I just work my way out. And so that's where we start. And I'll finish that up and then we'll move on. So now I have the board almost all taped off. I'm going to do one last taping just along this edge here to finish it off. And then we'll talk about the next step. I just do about 1/8 of an inch overlap from one strip to the next. So that's all taped off, and I already took the time to draw the squiggly line on there that I'm going to cut out. This is going to be the opposite of this, as I said. So where I took the tape out of the sides here and painted it on this one, I'm going to take the tape out of the center and leave a blob of color on the center. So what I do after I draw the line, I take an X-Acto knife or a utility knife. The utility knife is kind of big and clumsy, but if you have big hands, it might work better. I prefer the X-Acto knife because I can kind of hold it like a pencil, and I just start following the line all the way around. So once I get that line cut out, we'll move into the next part. So now that I've taken the time to cut along this line and cut it out, I started peeling the tape down. I just left the last little bit to show, so I've got all the tape peeled off. One thing you'll notice on this design is I didn't stay exactly in the lines, which on a design like this is no big deal. I'm just trying to get a general blob. Now if you do a design that's a little more intricate and a little more detailed, you probably need to take a little more time and get it cut out right on the line, depending on what you want to do. So the next step is to paint the board. I get this paint from Michael's or other craft store. It's a Craftsmart. It's like 79 cents for this tube of paint. And one tube will easily do a board. Sometimes I can get by with half a tube. So I just get a little bit of a roller and put it in one of these little paint holders and just start rolling it on. I have used spray paint in the past, as you can see back here I have some spray paint, but it just kind of goes everywhere and it's harder to clean up. When you roll it on, it covers a little bit better, it's a lot easier to clean up, get a good coverage on it. As I do this, I want to mention one thing. When you put paint on your board, the goal isn't to seal the board. You don't want to put any primer down. You don't want this grain sealed because the sealing comes with the resin. And if you put too much paint on the board, you end up sealing the grain. You won't get as good of adhesion from the sealing epoxy, which is real important to get that final seal. So to paint the board, you can see it's as easy as that. I cut my design out, I rolled it, and next step is to peel this paint off. And we'll do that in just a minute. Alright, so we got this tape all peeled off. I'm just peeling off the very last bit of it. You can see the design that was left on there is pretty cool, just a reddish blob in the center. So now we're going to turn around and paint the bottom. And this is a technique that I like to use that maintains the grain look in the board, while at the same time giving it some color. The grain in these boards is just so beautiful that I hate to cover it up. I wouldn't blame somebody if they took their blank and just sealed it and brought out all the wood grain. I've thought about doing that. But to paint the bottom, it's as easy as getting a little more red paint, get a nice wet rag, and we're gonna put the paint on and then even it out and smooth it out with the rag, and that will give us kind of a transparent look so that the red can come out and bring out the grain. So just that, the rag really needs to be wet or else you just won't get this. I've tried it with a dry paper towel and had a mess. So it's as easy as that. So there's the front of the board. We'll get the other part of the board here. So this is smooth, it dries fast. That's one thing I want to mention when you're taking the tape off the board. Make sure your paint is dry. Don't try to start taking that paint or that tape off if you don't have dry paint. This paint, you could probably take the tape off in about 20 minutes. Some paint I had to wait an hour. So I'm going to just run it along the edge too. You don't have to if you just like the grain, but a little bit of color on the edge is kind of cool too. I'll do the other edge in a minute, but that's it. That's the bottom of the board, painted red. Brings the grain out, nice even smooth color, and that's the top of the board. So the next video we're going to do is going to be the design on this 32-inch kicktail. And then we're going to seal all the boards, which might be the scary part for most people, to how to use that epoxy resin. So just to follow up on the last video showing the taping and the painting, if I didn't mention before, it's important that you use a water-based paint instead of like a oil-based paint. You don't want to seal that wood. You don't want to put primer down. You just want to get the color on there and the graphic design you want. The sealing comes with the epoxy resin sealant. And after we finish the design on this 32-inch kicktail cruiser, we're going to seal it, the 38-inch board with the burnt graphics, and also the red board. And I'll do all three of those, and so you'll have three examples of how to do the sealing on the boards and get that right. And we'll get the grip into the board without even using grip tape. So the next video will be putting the design on the 2-inch kicktail cruiser.